What is going on, guys? What is going on? And welcome to the end of the year Mets thoughts, guys. We're going to get into some David Stearns comments. My name is Randy, and you're watching the Randy Talks Mets channel on YouTube. And we are doing this on Twitter as well, guys. Man, I wanted to do this stream to talk about some stuff when it comes to David Stearns, the comments, so his final presser, what he talked about. We're going to get into all that stuff. But man, it wasn't it wasn't how we wanted the season to go. It wasn't how we wanted the season to go. We didn't make the playoffs. The Mets absolutely collapsed. It was not a good time to be a Met fan this year. You know, you got Juan Soto, you bring Frankie Montas, Clay Holmes, Griffin Canning, all these moves, and you bring back Pete Alonso, you bring back Sean Manaea, Sean Manaea is a guy that the Mets fans wanted. A lot of Mets fans wanted, but this is not how the season was supposed to go for the New York Mets. This was a really, really horrible collapse of a season. And I'm really disappointed. I am really disappointed. And I know a lot of Met fans are really disappointed. I completely understand. We're gonna get into some comments. We're gonna hear from David Stearns a little bit. So we're gonna hear this video. He talked about his opening statement about what he thought of the season, how it went. So we're gonna get to it here.
Tremendously disappointing season. Not nearly good enough. I think we all know that. We came into this year with deservedly so very high expectations, and we didn't come close to meeting them. And I'm keenly aware of that. I'm the architect of the team. I'm responsible for it. I understand how frustrated our fan base is. I understand how frustrated everyone in this building is today, everyone associated with the Mets. And we got to do better. And I'm committed to moving us forward and doing better. We'll have ample time here, I'm sure, to discuss the what and the why. I'll start off up top with a few of my overarching observations. From a roster construction perspective, on the run prevention side of the ball, we didn't do a good enough job of fortifying our team when we had injuries midseason. Clearly, that was a point in our season where, on the run prevention side of things, we went from a very good team to a team that wasn't good enough to maintain a sizable lead, not only in the division but in the playoff chase. Our defense wasn't good enough, and that certainly contributed to our pitching challenges. And then offensively, we had a number of players who had really good years, but we failed to score the runs that we needed to score despite those really good years. And so you add all that up, and you get to a team that underachieved greatly. We know that. I certainly know that.
Yeah, he certainly does know that. And we definitely underachieved greatly. I mean, the New York Mets had a very, very disappointing season. What's going on, Sonic? William, what is going on? Yeah, good to see you, man. Good to be back here. When it comes to the Mets, this was such a disappointing season, and it's not the way we wanted it to go. But man, all you can hope for is that David Stearns has learned from this. He's learned from this because guys like Griffin Canning, Frankie Montas, Jose Siri, Jesse Winker, Sean Manaea, these guys were just not successful in the major leagues in 2025. And to me, it really sucked. It really sucked to see this season and how it went and how this came to be. But he's bringing back Carlos Mendoza, guys. He's bringing back Carlos Mendoza. I want to get to a stat here. We went 0-70, trailing after the 8th inning. 0-70. We're the only team in baseball that didn't get one win, and after trailing after the 8th inning. Crazy, crazy, crazy. It's horrible. The fact that now, it's just horrible, man. It's not where we wanted it to be. But yeah, we're gonna get into why they asked him a question here about Mendoza, so I'm gonna get into that here. Why he thinks he's the right man for the job. Let's see here, I'm looking for it. Yeah, let me see.
Mendoza the right person going forward. Yeah, believe Carlos has all the same traits and assets that I believed in when we hired him 2 years ago. And I think over the course of his tenure here, he has demonstrated that. We had a tough year this year. There's no question. We are all disappointed. We are all frustrated. Mendy as much or more than anyone else. But I still believe he's a very good manager. I think he's going to demonstrate that.
So we've seen some firings. We've seen Bob Melvin fired. We've seen some also Brian Snicker. He's not gonna be the manager for the Braves anymore. You've seen guys like Bruce Bochy. He's not gonna be a manager. He's with that team anymore. So you had some options. You had some options. You could have went a different route. You could have just fired the manager right away. But I feel like David Stearns, he messed up himself, and he knows he messed up. So he feels like, he messed up, and he didn't give Carlos Mendoza the right ingredients to have that successful season. And to me, like guys like Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga, David Peterson, really disappointed in that second half of the season and killed the Mets. Starting pitching is a big thing. To me, is a really, really big thing. And I think, man, we'll get into that in a little bit. But he said we need to focus on run prevention. We know that the run prevention. We get that. We know that he wants to focus on run prevention. And I hope that comes with better decisions. He needs to make some better decisions. But what I really want to talk about here is the philosophy here. I want to talk about the philosophy of starting pitching so far with the elite starting pitching. I think that the Mets need to get elite starting pitching. We saw the game one starters. We saw Tariq Skubal. You saw Garrett Crochet. You've seen Yamamoto. You've seen a lot of dominant game one starters. And to me, the Mets did not have that this season. You was depending on Kodai Senga, on Sean Manaea, on these guys. Like David Stearns had a really good first year with the Mets. We got to the NLCS. He took us to the NLCS. But the second year this year, a big disappointment. We were 45-24. 45-24. And then after that, after June 13, we went on a crazy downhill run. And it was just horrible. And to me, it's just sad. It was sad the way ever since that Kodai Senga injury happened, it's like the team just started losing so many games. And I hate that we didn't have, the starting pitching, because the starting pitching in the first half was pretty good. You had Griffin Canning pitching pretty good. You had McGill, Clay Holmes pitching pretty good. But overall, it just couldn't keep up. It couldn't keep up throughout the whole season. It's a long season, guys. And it's funny how, like, to me, is like David Stearns put a trick on us. Like, it worked with Severino, it worked with Sean Manaea, but Griffin Canning, Frankie Montas. When Frankie Montas was signed for the Mets, I was pissed off. I never agreed with the move. I never wanted him. I was trying to give the benefit of the doubt because maybe the pitching lab could help. Frankie Montas, whatever. But he's not a good pitcher. He is not a good pitcher. And Griffin Canning, to me, man, I mean, come on, man. It's a joke. It's a joke that these guys, like, that he signed these guys. When you look at these, how do you make a team worse? How do you make a team worse on paper? That's how you make a team worse. You sign a Griffin Canning, you sign a Frankie Montas, you sign a Jose Siri, a guy who hits 180 something. I mean, these are not major league management moves that should be made from a guy like David Stearns. You're in New York City, buddy. You're in New York City. This is not the small market anymore. This ain't the small market. But man, Sonic said he's disappointed. Yeah, I'm disappointed. I get it. I completely understand. I'm with you. I'm disappointed as well. I'm really disappointed. Really disappointed. But let's go back to a little bit about Carlos Mendoza. How do you guys feel about Carlos Mendoza? How you guys feel about him coming back? Because to me, it's a tough one. To me, David Stearns didn't give Carlos Mendoza all the right ingredients to be successful. You saw a lot of moves, though, that Carlos Mendoza made this year were very questionable moves. Very questionable. The game against the Diamondbacks, Chris Davinsky, leaving him in the 8th inning and then bringing him back out for the 9th inning with a 2-run game. Rather than use Edwin Diaz, rather than use a better reliever like a Reed Garrett, somebody like that. You could have used somebody like that. And no, they didn't use somebody like that. And we lost that game. We lost that game, but we almost could have tied it if you would have actually not punted the game. You're not like, to me, Carlos Mendoza, I like him as a manager. I liked him in the first year. The second year to me was very different. I saw a lot of mistrust with the pitchers. I saw a lot of the management with the bullpen. I'm like, why are you making these moves? Why? I don't understand. We punted so many games. And then he said, Carlos Mendoza said this quote. He said, we're not chasing, wins in April. How are you not chasing wins in April? Are you supposed to want to win every single game? Aren't you? Like, come on, man. This is unbelievable. This is my dad's chips. Randy, thanks for streaming on YouTube. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for watching, man. Taking the time out of your day to watch me. Really appreciate it. At the end of the day, we're gonna be doing more streams here. We're gonna be doing more consistent content. But wow, I think when it comes to the Mets, this is a huge collapse, just like Sonic is saying here. I'm calling this the 2025 Mets collapse reboot. Yeah, we need a reboot. We need to get better. And David Stearns, he knows that now. You saw him. It wasn't like this big confidence, this smile, like, oh yeah, we had a bad season. No, it was like, oh, we messed up. We messed up, and he knows we messed up. And there's moves that got to be made. But to me, bringing back Carlos Mendoza, I'm not the biggest fan of the move because of the fact that we went 0-70. We were the only team in baseball that went 0-70. So no wins and 70 losses after trailing after the 8th inning. It's a joke. It's a joke to me. I don't like it. I don't like it. So I don't know, man. We got to see better. We got to see better, man. We're gonna get into Big Frank. What's going on, Big Frank? How you doing, Big Frank? How you feeling, man? Appreciate you coming to the stream. Let me see here. My dad's chips here. Does it matter if the Mets missed the playoffs? The Reds got swept by the Dodgers. Yes, the Reds got swept by the Dodgers, guys. I mean, are we surprised? Are we surprised? Now, I think if we would have made it to the playoffs, I think McLean, you imagine seeing Nolan McLean versus the Dodgers? That would be a beautiful, beautiful sight. I would love to see that because I think the Dodgers, like the McLean has never seen the Dodgers and the Dodgers have never seen McLean. I think McLean and the Mets had the advantage in game one if the Mets make the playoffs, but the Mets didn't make the playoffs, guys. The Mets didn't make the playoffs. It was a sad, sad case. It is what it is, man. But he wants to focus on run prevention, right? Run prevention. Okay. Are you going to bring back a guy like Mark Vientos? Are you going to bring back a guy like Brett Beatty? To me, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, Mauricio, one of those guys is going to have to go. One of those guys is going to have to go. And I like Vientos, but that's a guy that I could see the Mets trading just because he doesn't play a lot of positions. I mean, he doesn't play good defense, really. And he doesn't play that many positions. You could put him at first base, but he's not that good of a defender. He's not that good of a defender. So we got to see. We're going to have to see a different mindset. And I think we're going to get, let me see. I'm going to get into, he asked a question. Let me see here about the core. Let me see. Where was the core here? Core question. Let me see. Oh, where's the core question here? Okay. There was a question about the core. Yeah, the core. It's weird, man. It's weird. Let's see here. The Dodgers spanked Hunter Green. Hunter Green is better than McLean. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. That's a good point you're making. That's a good point. Look, Hunter Green is better than McLean at the moment, but we don't like. To me, the spin rate of McLean could have been a challenge for the Dodgers. I'm not gonna lie to you. But and we were beaten by the same team that caused the collapse, the Marlins. Those fishes are escaping the fish market. Yeah, it was so sad how we didn't make the playoffs because we lost that game. We lost that game, and the Reds lost that game. So we literally were tied, and we didn't have the tiebreaker. The Reds had the tiebreaker. It's just a sad season, man. It's just a sad season. But what will the philosophy will the philosophy change? Do you guys think that the philosophy will change? Will he get a big time starting pitcher? Will he trade for a big time starting pitcher? There's been talk about Logan Gilbert. There's been talk about Scooble. There's been talk about Skeens. There's been talked about so many guys lately. And I'm hoping that David Stearns changes his mindset. I want him to change his mindset this situation, because you cannot go with reclamation projects like there was a report about Luke Weaver and wanting to be a starting pitcher. I don't want to see David Stearns go for a Luke Weaver. I want to see him get a guy like Shane Bieber in the market. Maybe sign a Franmil Valdez. Maybe trade for a Schoolbull, a Sandy Alcantara, somebody like that. We got to get a big time starter. And to me, McLean could be your number 2 or your number 3. It depends on who you get next year. And there's a lot of moves that need to be made, because this team is not a complete team. This team is not a complete team. We don't have a center fielder. We don't have really good pitchers. We don't. Sean Manaea, we don't know what Sean Manaea is going to be. We have him for 2 more years, but we don't know what he's going to be. David Peterson, there's some concern. There's some concern there. McLean is a guy that looked really good. He looked really, really good. Sproat is a guy that looked good as well. But to me, it's like the Mets had a lot of mistrust in Sproat. They took so long to promote this guy. And they took so long to promote Brandon Sproat. They promote Jonah Tong over Brandon Sproat. So I don't know if Brandon Sproat is even going to make the rotation next year. I don't know. Because let's say you get a guy like Shane Bieber. Let's say you get a guy like Sandy Alcantara. You trade for a guy like that. You have a Shane Bieber, a McLean, a Sandy Alcantara. That's a nice 3. That's a nice 3 rotation right there. Now, obviously, you need a 4 and 5. I think Clay Holmes is going to be back. Clay Holmes, hats off to David Stearns for that move for Clay Holmes. He finished 9th in the ERA, in all of ERA. He did a great job. Clay Holmes had a good season. He had a good season. Let me see here. Stearns is on the hot seat next season. Yeah. Elvin, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think he's on the hot seat. I definitely think he's on the hot seat. It's tough, man. It's really, 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 really tough. And let's see here. I counted 25 games the Mets choked by losing after the All-Star break. We choked so many games. We punted games. I don't understand. It felt like the Mets, like David Stearns, like they didn't want to win. I don't know. It's like you saw Ryan Stanek out there so many times. Ryan Stanek. You saw that so many times. You saw him blow games and him still be on the team. And I'm like, yo, when are they going to DFA him? When are they going to DFA him? 0-70. Elvin, 0-70. Great comment here. 0-70 after trailing after the 8th inning. 0-70. That is a sad stat. We're the only baseball team in the MLB who did that. Only baseball team. My dad's chips here said, I would trade for Twins Joe Ryan. Now, Joe Ryan is a guy that I could see possibly traded as well. Maybe the Mets go for him. I think that the Mets have the farm system to go after him. I think that the Mets have the farm system to go after anyone they want. That even if a Tariq Skubal becomes available in the offseason somehow, I mean, I will love that. But you got to get elite starting pitching. That's my point here. The Mets have to get elite starting pitching. We cannot go another season with having Sean Manaea as our number 2. We can't. We can't. So we got to be better, guys. David Stearns has to be better. And let's get into what he said about the trade deadline real quick. We know that the moves were not with those moves for Mullins, all the Tyler Rogers, those moves, Gregory Soto. Not a lot of those moves were successful. Ryan Helsley really, really struggled in New York, and Mullins really struggled in New York as well. So let's get into some comments here.
We don't get redos. We don't get do-overs in this business. But clearly the moves we made the trade deadline, or at least a subset of those moves, didn't work. And in certain cases,
no, it didn't. No, it didn't.
And didn't help us down the stretch.
What was the biggest surprise of that? Disappointment.
Well, look, I'm not gonna. Every player we acquired was a true pro, worked their tails off, and did everything in their power to help us. And in a couple of cases, it didn't work. And frankly, that too is on me and us. When we bring players in here, we got to set up an environment to allow them to succeed. We take a lot of pride in that. I take a lot of pride in that. And clearly, at the deadline, we were unable to do that.
See, so yeah, at the deadline, you saw the moves with Mullins, with Helsley. Helsley, to me, was a guy that I thought was going to be a big-time addition. I was hype about the move. I was excited. I was excited about Ryan Helsley. I was like, you know what? We got Ryan Helsley. We finally have a bridge to Edwin Diaz. We've been searching and searching all year for a bridge, and we finally got somebody. And we got Ryan Helsley, guys. And Ryan Helsley shit the freaking bed. He shit the bed. He shit the bed. His first 14 games, he had an 11-something. No, his first 11 games, he had a 14-something ERA. It was a sad, sad time for Ryan Helsley. Cedric Mullins. I was not a fan of Cedric Mullins on this team. I was not a fan of it. I really didn't want Cedric Mullins. He was struggling in Baltimore. He wasn't having a good season. And the Mets brought him up. I mean, the Mets traded for him. And to me, we traded for Mullins, but we sent down Luis Angel Acuna. We kept Ronnie Mauricio on the roster in the major leagues. To me, we got worse. We got worse. Cedric Mullins made us worse. It was a sad, sad, sad time. But this is a good comment here by my dad's chips here. Randy, yes, pitching was a problem, but our offense only clicked for 3 weeks. Most of the time, the Mets offense was bad. That is a great point you're making, because you're right about that. You're completely right about that. Our offense was horrible. Our offense was horrible. The only time we clicked in our offense was probably August. That was our hottest month. And guess what? We didn't have an above 500 a month in August. We didn't have a winning record in our best offensive month. What does that say about the Mets 2025? It's a disaster, a collapse. It's not where we wanted it to be. It's horrible. It's sad. It's honestly sad. Honestly sad here. There's a lot to talk about here, but let me see here. Sonic said, any thoughts on Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong? For sure, we could get into some thoughts about that. Nolan McLean, to me, is a guy that looked like a number 2 pitcher, almost a number 1 pitcher. Nolan McLean, his spin rate, 3,300, looked amazing. To me, I think David Stearns failed when he didn't bring up Nolan McLean. After you didn't get a starter in the trade deadline, and I get why you didn't get a starter. I get the prices were high. The prices were high, and they were asking for way too much for a guy like Merrill Kelly, a guy like what Sandy Alcantara. Like it was too much. And none of those guys, Joe Ryan, Sandy Alcantara, they didn't get traded. None of those guys got traded. The big time starting pitchers didn't get traded. So to me, I get it. I get why David Stearns didn't make those trades. But what I didn't like is I'm like, when he didn't make those trades, I'm like, okay, now promote McLean. Now promote Sproat. Like, let's go. Let's go. And if the David Stearns would have promoted Nolan McLean right away, once the trade deadline was done, we would be in the playoffs today. We would be in the playoffs and play the Dodgers. And I don't know if we would have won, but we would have still got there. We would have still got there. And it's still, to me, it was still going to be a collapse, whether they made the playoffs or not. It was going to be horrible because you were going to make the playoffs by default because the Reds were horrible, the Giants were horrible, and the Diamondbacks were horrible. So it's just a joke. It's a joke. But I think when it comes to Nolan McLean, he can be our guy that we depend on for years. If he pitches the way he pitched just now, next year, oh, that is amazing. And that's what makes me want to group a guy like a Sandy Alcantara with a Nolan McLean next year. That's what makes me want to go for a guy like Tariq Skubal. You know what I mean? So I hope that they do that. But Jonah Tong, guys, Jonah Tong to me, he's a guy that got a lot of praise. He got a lot of praise. He's a guy that was talked about a lot. Like he had plus stuff. He's going to be better than Nolan McLean. He's going to be better than Brandon Sproat. And you saw what he did. He had a couple of good starts, but he had a couple of really rough starts as well. So I like Jonah Tong, but I'm a little worried about his fastball. I'm a little worried about his pitch mix because in the minors, he was blowing guys away with that fastball, just blowing guys away with that fastball, striking them out. He was the minor league pitcher of the year. Minor league pitcher of the year. But his pitch mix is concerning because you're not always going to blow guys away with that fastball. You're not. Because he doesn't have a 99 to 100 miles per hour fastball. It's like, 96 to 97? Maybe top that 98, maybe, if he really rears back. So to me, I like Jonah Tong, but next year, I don't want him to start in the rotation. I would rather have him in AAA because this is a young kid. He's 22 years old. He's a guy that didn't face a lot of adversity in his career, like a Brandon Sproat, like a McLean, who pitched in college, who was a football player. I mean, so I think Jonah Tong needs time, and I would start him in AAA next year. I really would. See here, Juan Soto had great stats, but he only got 1 or 2 clutch hits for the Mets this year. Look, my dad's chips, I think you're right about that. You're right about that. Juan Soto, he didn't get a lot of hits this year, a lot of clutch hits this year. It's the truth. He didn't. I'm a big fan of Juan Soto. I'm so happy that the Mets got Juan Soto, but he didn't have his best impactful year for the New York Mets team. Now, when you look at his personal stats and individual stats, he had a great overall year. He hit 43 home runs. He had 38 stolen bases. He had a 260-something average. I get it, 100 RBIs. I mean, it's very, very impressive. But it wasn't the most impactful year for the Mets, for the New York Mets team that needed him in those situations where we needed to get that clutch hit, to hit with runners in scoring position. It was a really, really rough time for Juan Soto in the beginning, but I think when it comes to Juan Soto, we get it why it was rough. It's a new team. He has to build that chemistry. He's still a really good hitter, but it's still a new team, guys. It's still a new team. And this guy's a human being. So Juan Soto, I hope this year, I hope he has a better year next year. He had a good year, but we need to see runners. We need to see him hit better with runners in scoring position. We have to. At least I hope to. I hope. Let me see here. Elvin said, "Oh my OMG, I missed Bader, Iglesias, Martinez, Severino, and Quintana." Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you there. I don't blame you. To me, I would have brought back Severino. I would have loved Severino on this team. And I know what guys are gonna say. Oh, why would you bring back Severino when he struggled this year? But this guy pitched in a lot. He pitched in a AAA park, you know? So he wasn't always pitching in major league parks. You got to look into that. But I think the chemistry and the energy and what Luis Severino gave us last year, I would have loved to sign him back. And I wanted him back more than I wanted Sean Manaea. That's the truth. That's the truth. And I was disappointed when we didn't sign Severino back. I was disappointed. But it is what it is. It is what it is. And Quintana, that's another guy that David Stearns, when he talked about those injuries with the pitching, he could have signed Quintana. Quintana was still out there. He was still out there. You could have signed him. But instead, they want to sign a Frankie Montas for $34 million for 2 years. And now he's going to be out for the year. It's a joke. Frankie Montas is a joke. I never wanted to see Frankie Montas in a Met uniform ever again in my life. Jose Gonzalez, what's going on? The Mets, I'm not going to spend money. They're going to stay. The Mets, I'm not going to spend money. They're going to stay with. I'm not going to spend money. They're going to stay with. You mean like you don't want to give big contracts out that like you're kind of stuck with, like a Brandon Nimmo, that type. I think that's what you're trying to say. Randy Tong might be a trade bait if they get a starter. Yeah, I think he could be. Tong is still a top prospect, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets try to trade a Jonah Tong and get a guy like Sandy Alcantara. I wouldn't be surprised about it. I wouldn't be surprised. But to me, the philosophy has to change. The philosophy has to change. And he talked about it. We still, to that sustainable success where they want to go, they need to have their young pitcher, their young, players have some impact. And you saw that with McLean a little bit, but we'll see. Forget the old Mets. Let's go. It's time to go. Move on to some better options. Yeah, man. What's going on, San? What's going on, Samuelito? I love Jeff McNeil, but the man cares more about golf than baseball. I'm done with Jeff McNeil. I've been done with Jeff McNeil. Last offseason, I wanted him gone. I didn't want him on the team. But they brought him. They didn't trade him. I thought they were going to trade him with a Luis Angel Acuna potentially coming up, with a Ronnie Mauricio coming up. I thought, you know what? Maybe they're going to trade him. But Samuelito says, say goodbye to your favorite prospects. Quintana playing in the division series. Yeah. No, I get it. Now let's get into a topic that maybe, could be a little concerning, a little interesting. We're going to get into a topic here that, it's going to be interesting. Will Stearns bring back Pete Alonso? Will David Stearns bring back Pete Alonso? I want to hear from you guys. I want to see your comments here. Do you bring back Pete? How do you feel about bring back Pete? What type of contract would you give him? I want to hear from you guys a little bit. So if you guys want to say some comments, you could. But I'll say my point here. 2025, the stats. He came out to play this year. Pete Alonso did his thing. He had a rough 2024 year. 86 RBIs. Didn't even hit 100 RBIs in 2024. 30-something home runs, right? But he didn't even get to 100 RBIs last year. It was his worst year with runners in scoring position in 2024. But 2025, he put in the work. He went to his own hitting coach. He was doing his own research as a player. His own research, researching the pitchers, trying to have a game plan against the pitchers. And you saw that. You saw that this year. Pete Alonso was a different player this year. Let's get into the stats here. He had a batting average of 272. 272. Very impressive for Pete Alonso. 38 home runs. Okay, he didn't get to 40 home runs, but he still got 38 home runs. 126 RBIs for Pete Alonso. I mean, when you think about it, it's a tough one. I don't know if David Stearns wants to bring back Pete Alonso. When he talks about run prevention, when he talks about that type of stuff, the defense that Pete Alonso has given you, to be honest with you, when you look at the defensive metrics, it's below average. This is the truth. I'm never going to lie. It's the truth, guys. He's a below average defender. He is. But what he gives you offensively, where are you going to find that? Where are you going to get that guy that hits you 30-something home runs every single year, has 100-something RBIs? Where are you going to find that? I don't know. I don't know where you're going to find that, but to me, it's interesting. It's interesting to talk about because, we know that Stearns didn't want him back in 2024. He wasn't trying to offer him that long-term contract. Is he going to offer him that long-term contract now? I mean, I honestly don't know. But I think this year, he had an overall really, really good year for Pete Alonso. He had a really good year. Very good year. So he deserves to come back to the New York Mets. But what would that contract even look like? Is it going to be for 5 years? Are they willing to go that 5th year? Is it going to be a 4-year with an opt-out in the last year? Is it going to be that? I think you got to bring back Pete Alonso and put him in this lineup because to me, having Juan Soto and Pete Alonso in this lineup, I loved it. I loved having a Juan Soto and Pete Alonso in the same lineup. I really did. Now, it wasn't overall the greatest year for us as fans seeing this team and the Mets because they didn't make the playoffs. And I get maybe why they want to go. Maybe they want to. Maybe they just want to get away from Pete Alonso. I don't know. But there's going to be a lot of open-mindedness when it comes to the core players, when it comes to David Stearns. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Let's see here. My dad ships here. Do you think the destruction of the Mets in 2025 was intentional? Is it possible that the umps and the MLB commissioner's office colluded against us? I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, there was a game that you saw with the San Diego Padres and Juan Soto. And that guy, to me, had something personal against Juan Soto because he was calling balls like up here for a strike. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he stared him down when Juan Soto was staring at him. So I think in that case, that was maybe personal. But I don't think the MLB colluded against us. Come on. I hope not. I hope not. But, man, we just got to see better, man. We got to see better. We have to see better. So I hope the New York Mets get better. But do you bring back the Pete Alonso? I don't know. I don't know if Stearns wants to bring back Pete Alonso. You saw last year he didn't have the best market. And David Stearns offered him a contract, but overall is like he was like, take it or leave it. So he was ready to walk away from Pete Alonso. And you saw it on in Amazing Day. You saw what he talked about with Pete Alonso. And the fans that really booed the crap out of David Stearns. And then you saw Cohen get honest and emotional. And he's like, listen, this has been a rough this has been the hardest, negotiation he's had to deal with this year. Pete Alonso's negotiation was harder than Juan Soto. So I don't know if David Stearns wants to bring back Pete Alonso because he talks about run prevention, because he talks about maybe being open-minded to changing the core. I mean, I don't know. When you look at the age of Pete Alonso and you look at maybe why teams and executives, why they don't want to sign Pete Alonso for a long-term contract because of his defense, because of maybe how his body will end up, I don't know. But the guy plays every day. He plays every day. He plays hard. I'll give him credit. He plays hard every single day. So, man, we got to see what happens with Pete Alonso, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But I personally want Pete Alonso to come back. And 2024 was an awful year for Pete Alonso, but 2025, he redeemed himself. He redeemed himself. He did his own research on the pitchers. So he got better. He got better. And yes, he had Juan Soto, he had Lindor batting in front of him. And yeah, he got a lot of RBIs. But this team, man, this team has to do better somehow. And they got to get better in a lot of cases. You got to get better with the starting rotation. You got to get better at third base. You got to get better at second base. You got to get better at center field. Because we haven't even really talked about that. Who's going to be the center field next year? Because Carson Bench is a guy that maybe I would want to see at center field, but he struggled in AAA. So it's tough. It's going to be tough. But what I want to see from the Mets is put out a better product out there for the Mets. Put out a better product. Because what a collapse it's been. What a collapse of a season. But we got to see better. We got to see better. See here. Pete Alonso's probably gone. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if Pete Alonso's probably gone. But I could see it. I could see it possibly that could happen. And Met fans are going to be pissed off. Pissed off. Met fans are going to be, they're going to go crazy. They're going to go insane if Pete Alonso doesn't come back and he goes to another team. Maybe the Phillies. Maybe the Reds. Maybe the Cubs. Who knows? Who knows? But, man, it's crazy. It is crazy. But we got to get better, guys, with starting pitching. You got to get better with starting pitching. You got to try to trade for a Sandy Alcantara, a Joe Ryan, a Tariq Skubal, a Paul Skeens. You got to do something. You got to change it up. And I think David Stearns is going to have to get a little uncomfortable. Okay? He's going to have to get a little comfortable. You can't be this small market GM. That's not going to play in New York. You got to have that killer mentality. You got to have that killer mentality. And I hope that after this year, David Stearns has learned. I hope. That is all we can hope for when it comes to David Stearns. But this is a great point you're making. Over 3 million tickets showed. We showed up to Citi Field. The Mets didn't hold up to their end of their promise. Are we booing next year? I'm going to tell you this. You guys have every right to do whatever you want to do as fans. Every right. If you want to boo a certain player, that is your right. That is your right as a fan. That is your right. But if they come out with a better product, they make these trades for better pitchers. Because to me, I want to see better. I want to see this team be better. This team has to be better. Has to be better. And there's going to be a lot of rumors. There's going to be a lot to talk about going forward, what's going on. But David Stearns has to do better. And he said it. He said it. He has to be better. He said it. But we're going to get into what he said about Pete Alonso real quick.
Yeah, he is a great Met. He had a fantastic year. I said this last year, and it worked out. I'd love to have Pete back. We'll see where the offseason goes.
So he wants to, he's going to say he wants to have Pete back. And I think he wants to get Pete back, but he wants to get Pete back on certain years. I don't think he's willing to go that 6th, 7th, 8th year, whatever maybe Pete Alonso wants. Because a player like Pete Alonso, and I know there's a lot of fans that maybe feel a certain way. He said, he's going to opt out right after the Mets lose. He said it. And then Edwin Diaz said, I'm going to talk to my family and I'm going to see what the best decision for us is before we talk about opting out. Because yes, we got Edwin Diaz and we got Pete Alonso that is potentially going to opt out. And Pete Alonso's already opting out. And Edwin Diaz, I wouldn't be surprised if he opts out as well. He's 31. He's one of the best closers in the game. He pitched great this year, had a great year. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised, guys. But this team, we got to be better. We got to get better. And I think you got to bring back Edwin Diaz. To me, Edwin Diaz has to be your first move. We saw it when Edwin Diaz was a free agent. The Mets didn't waste any time. And they went right after Edwin Diaz. Right after him. So I hope that happens here. But Pete Alonso, that's going to be a negotiation. That's going to be a big situation because he's a Scott Boras client. He's a Scott Boras client. But I think he's going to be loyal to the Mets. I think whatever offer other teams give him, I think he's going to go to the Mets and be like, can you match this? That's what I think. So, man, I'm just hoping at the end of the day that the team gets better. But David Stearns, guys, has to change his mindset, has to get better, and has to get a little uncomfortable.
David, understood that every team would love to have 4 or 5 starters for 180 innings and stay healthy late in the ball as well. But from an organizational standpoint, philosophy point, you guys can build or control. Coming off of this, do you feel like you maybe need to ask more of your starters in terms of build a staff that you can ask more of and ask more of them to get deeper in games rather than be quick to protect them and pull them through?
We need more innings out of our starting staff. There's no question about that. I think we were on the edge for the first 2.5 months this year where we were getting 5+ innings per start pretty consistently. And that worked because it was happening every night. The minute you then get your 2 1/3 innings start, you get into trouble. And so like that into trouble this year.
That definitely got them into trouble. That definitely got them into trouble. Starting pitching to me is huge, guys. Starting pitching to me is huge. And the Mets got to get some elite starting pitching. You got to go for elite starting pitching. You got to trade for elite starting pitching. You got to sign either you trade or you sign for elite starting pitching. But you got to get better. You got to give us a better way. It's for our team could have some better starting pitching. And I'm hoping that we see. I think McLean, he said it. McLean is going to be here next year. He sees him being a big part of the Mets next year. But to me, David Peterson, Sean Manaea, Clay Holmes. To me, Clay Holmes, I think he deserves to be the starting. He deserves to be our 4th or 5th starter next year. I think so. But David Peterson, it's a tough one with David Peterson because he had a really good overall first half of the year, but he really struggled in the second half. Really struggled. And yeah, I think he hit his innings limit, the most innings he's ever had as a MLB player. And we saw what we were seeing. We saw the results of that. And it's not what you want to see. It's not what you want to see. So I'm hoping that we can just get some better starting pitching and a better product on the field, but we can get more wins. That is all I'm really hoping for, guys. All I'm hoping for. But we just got to get better, man. We got to get better. So, I mean, but Samuelito says, say goodbye to your favorite prospect. Stearns is reading away. I think there's a chance that you see your favorite prospects get traded. Because if you want to make a trade for a Sandy Alcantara, you may want to make a trade for Tariq Skubal if he becomes available. You're going to have to give up major league. You're not going to have to give up these big time prospects. You might have to give up a Jet Williams, a Carson Bench, a Jonah Tong, a Brandon Sproat. You might have to give up those guys. Now, to me, if there's the guys that are untouchable, I'm not giving up Nolan McLean. I don't want to give up Nolan McLean. Now, if you give me Tariq Skubal and I have to trade Nolan McLean, I'm not going to be happy about it. I'm not going to be happy about, trading away Nolan McLean, but Tariq Skubal. So it's tough. It's tough. But those guys, to me, McLean, Lindor ain't going nowhere. Soto obviously ain't going nowhere. Alonso, we'll see if he's even on the team next year. We hope he is. But Brandon Nimmo, to me, is a guy that I could see getting traded if they talk to him and be like, listen, we just don't see you in our plans. We just don't see you in our plans. And yeah, we don't see you in our plans, but would you like to go to the Giants? Would you like to go to the Mariners? Would you waive your no trade clause? That would be tough. That would be tough for Brandon Nimmo. Because Brandon Nimmo, to me, overall had a really good year. Offensive year, he probably had his best offensive year in some time. So he has that value that probably other teams want. And you have 5 years left on his contract. But if the Mets want to get younger, they want to get better. It's going to be tough. I don't know. It's going to be really, really, really tough to see what happens. But San said Quintana playing in the division series. Yeah, Quintana definitely is playing in the division series. So hats off to Jose Quintana. That's a guy that I feel like we could have signed. We could have signed when we had those injury concerns with Sean Manaea, with a Frankie Montas. We could have signed Jose Quintana right there. And to me, Jose Quintana, if we would have signed Jose Quintana, we probably would have been in the playoffs. Probably would have been in the playoffs. So it's just tough, man. It's tough. But overall, closing out the thoughts here. Um, it wasn't the way we wanted this year to go, guys. It wasn't the way we wanted it to go. And there's a lot that needs to happen. There's going to be rumors. There's going to be a lot that talks about apparently the Mets and the coach. They didn't want to fire Carlos Mendoza, so he's coming back next year. But they are not bringing back all of the coaching staff. So maybe Jeremy Hefner, maybe Eric Chavez, John Gibbons, all these guys. I don't think that they're safe. I think they're going to make changes. And I hope whatever changes they make makes this team better. Makes this team better. I'm truly hoping for that. Truly. Because this team, we got destroyed this year, man. We got destroyed. Elvin said clean house. Wow. Clean house. Damn. And, you say clean house. I get it. And I think they are going to make some big trades. I think David Stearns is going to be open-minded. Probably the most open-minded he's been as a baseball executive in some time. I think you're going to see big-time trades. You're going to see blockbuster trades. Because if you don't, I think we're going to be very disappointed. Because let's say you got a Tariq Skubal out there. Let's say you got a Sandy out there. Make the trade, buddy. Because we already know about the Garrett Crochet and the Jet Williams and the Brandon Sproat and the potential trade that we could have got a Garrett Crochet on the Mets. Just imagine that. We could have got an 18-game winner. Imagine we could have got him. Imagine. Crazy. Sand said, since 2021, this same group couldn't get it done. Time for new faces. And I get it. I get why Mets feel that way. Because we didn't get it done in 2015. We didn't get it done in 2015. We didn't get it done in 2016. We didn't get it done in 2022. And we didn't get it done in 2024. Man, what's going on? G Money Stacks, what's going on? What's up, Randy? Sorry, I'm late. Just had dinner. What did I miss? Man, I mean, we talked about a whole bunch, but we talked about David Stearns. And overall, to sum it up, we talked about David Stearns, Mendoza returning, the run prevention. We talked about Pete Alonso possibly coming back. And does Stearns want to bring him back? Let me ask you, G Money here. Do you think that David Stearns wants to bring back Pete Alonso? Because I honestly don't know. I don't know if he wants to bring him back. I think he was ready to walk away from Pete Alonso last year. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I don't know, man. There's a lot of changes that need to be made. A lot of changes. And I'm hoping we just get better. That's it. So, yeah, man. I'm hoping we get better. And yeah, man, I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to watch me, taking the time out of your day to watch, just a Met fan talking about the Mets. You guys are awesome. Really, really appreciate it. And I hope you have an amazing day. At the end of the day, all we want is our team to get better and make it to the promised land. That is all we want. But G Money said here, this last comment. This is the last comment we're going to say before we end this. G Money said, he's a power hitter and there's no other Pete Alonso, especially with his production. You're right. There's no other Pete Alonso. But I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. We will have more streams. We will have more content. You can follow me on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, Randy Talks Mets, do me a favor, leave a like, comment, and subscribe on the channel. And yeah, man, I think when it comes to the Mets, we got to get better. We got to get better. David Stearns, he knows he has to get better. He knows. So we'll see what happens there. And if you followed on Twitter, you can follow me on Randy Talks Mets on Twitter as well. So yeah, you guys are awesome. Have a good one. Let's go, Mets. Enjoy your night. Enjoy the Yankee and the Red Sox games. Go Red Sox, because we don't want those Yankees to win. Let's go, Mets. Y'all have a good one.